I never thought I'd be the one to tell this kind of story. But life has a way of surprising you, doesn't it? My name is John Anderson, and this is the story of how my seemingly perfect life fell apart. It all began a couple of years ago, when I was still living in Boston, Massachusetts. I met my wife, Lisa, in college. We both attended Boston University, and she was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. Smart, funny, and beautiful, she had a smile that could light up a room. I was smitten from the moment I laid eyes on her. We started dating in our sophomore year and got married a few years after graduation. Life was good. I had a stable job as a software engineer at a tech firm downtown, and Lisa was working as a marketing manager for a fashion company. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. It started with little things. Lisa began coming home later and later from work. At first, it was just an extra hour or two, but then it became more frequent. She always had a plausible explanation: late meetings, networking events, urgent deadlines. I wanted to believe her, so I did. After all, she had never given me a reason to doubt her before. One Friday evening, I decided to surprise her by picking her up from work. I drove downtown and parked near her office, waiting for her to come out. As I sat in the car, I watched people leaving the building. 5 o'clock came and went, and there was no sign of Lisa. I waited for another half an hour before I decided to call her. "Hey, where are you?" I asked when she picked up. "Oh, I'm still at the office. We had an unexpected meeting," she replied, sounding a bit distracted. "Do you need a ride?" "I'm actually downtown," I offered. No, it's fine. I'll be here for a while. You should head home," she insisted. I didn't think much of it at the time, but something about her tone bothered me. I decided to wait a little longer. Around 6:30, I saw her walking out of the building, but she wasn't alone. She was with a man I had never seen before. They were laughing and talking, and then he did something that made my heart sink. He kissed her on the cheek. She didn't pull away. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I waited until they parted ways before I confronted her. When she got home, I tried to act normal, but the image of her with that man kept replaying in my mind. "How was work?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Exhausting," she replied, avoiding my gaze. "I think I'm going to take a shower." As she walked upstairs, I felt a mix of anger and confusion. Should I confront her right then and there? Or should I wait and see if there was more to this? I decided to give it some time, hoping that maybe there was an innocent explanation for what I saw. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. Lisa became more distant, and the late nights at the office became more frequent. One night, I decided to go through her phone while she was asleep. I know it was an invasion of privacy, but I had to know the truth. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were dozens of messages between her and a man named David. The messages were flirtatious and intimate, and it was clear that they were more than just friends. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. I confronted her the next morning. "Who is David?" I asked, holding up her phone. Lisa's face went pale. "John, I can explain," she stammered. "Explain what? That you've been cheating on me?" I shouted. Tears welled up in her eyes. "It's not what you think," she said weakly. "Then what is it, Lisa? Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear," I retorted. She broke down and confessed. "Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue." She admitted that she had been seeing David for a few months. They met at a conference, and one thing led to another. She claimed it was just a fling and that it didn't mean anything, but the damage was done. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. The next few days were a blur. I moved into the guest room and barely spoke to Lisa. I couldn't look at her without feeling a wave of anger and sadness. I took some time off work to clear my head and figure out what to do next. One evening, as I was sitting in the guest room, Lisa knocked on the door. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What's there to talk about?" I replied coldly. "I know I messed up, John. I'm so sorry. I don't want to lose you," she pleaded. I sighed. "Why, Lisa? Why did you do it?" She sat down on the edge of the bed. "I don't know. I felt like we were drifting apart, and David was there giving me attention. It was stupid and selfish, and I regret it more than anything. Her words stung, but a part of me still loved her. I didn't know if we could ever get past this, but I decided to try. We started seeing a marriage counselor, hoping to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. The counseling sessions were tough. We had to confront our issues head-on and talk about things we had avoided for years. It was emotionally draining, but slowly we began to make progress. Lisa cut off all contact with David and focused on rebuilding our relationship. Months passed, and things seemed to be getting better. We were communicating more and spending quality time together. But the betrayal was always in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of what had happened. I wanted to believe that we could move past it, but trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. One day I got a call from my boss. There was an opening for a senior position in our company's new office in San Francisco. It was a big opportunity, and the change of scenery sounded appealing. I discussed it with Lisa, and she agreed that a fresh start might be what we needed. So we packed up our lives and moved to the West Coast. San Francisco was a vibrant city, full of new possibilities. I threw myself into my work, and Lisa found a job at a marketing firm. We were doing our best to move forward, but the scars of the past were still there. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I came home to find Lisa sitting on the couch, looking troubled. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting down next to her. "I got a message from David," she said quietly. My heart sank. "What did he want?" "He said he missed me and wanted to see me," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. I felt a surge of anger. "Did you respond?" "No, I deleted it right away. I didn't want to hide it from you," she said, her voice shaking. I sighed. "Lisa, this isn't going to work if he's still in the picture." "I know, and I'm so sorry. I'll change my number. I don't want anything to do with him," she promised. We changed her number and blocked David on all social media platforms. I appreciated her honesty, but the incident reignited my doubts. Trusting her completely seemed impossible, and I began to question if our marriage was worth saving. Despite our efforts, the move to San Francisco didn't magically fix everything. We continued to struggle with trust issues, and the emotional distance between us grew. It became clear that we were both just going through the motions, trying to hold on to something that was already broken. One night, after yet another argument, I found myself walking aimlessly through the city streets. I ended up at a small bar, where I sat nursing a drink, lost in thought. The bartender, a friendly older man, struck up a conversation with me. "Rough night?" he asked, wiping down the counter. "Yeah, you could say that," I replied with a bitter laugh. "Want to talk about it?" he offered. I hesitated, then decided to open up. I told him about Lisa, the affair, and the struggles we were facing. He listened patiently, nodding occasionally. "You know, sometimes love isn't enough," he said after I finished. "Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. But it's not impossible. The question is, are you both willing to put in the work?" I thought about his words all the way home. Was I willing to keep trying? Was Lisa? And even if we were, would it ever be enough? I didn't have the answers, but I knew we couldn't keep going on like this. When I got home, Lisa was waiting for me. "Where were you?" she asked, worry etched on her face. "Just needed some air," I replied. "John, I know things have been tough, but I don't want to lose you. I love you," she said, tears in her eyes. "I love you too, Lisa, but we need to figure out if that's enough," I said quietly. We decided to take a break from counseling and spend some time apart to reevaluate our relationship. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. Lisa went to stay with her sister for a while, and I stayed in the apartment. It was a difficult and lonely time, but it gave me the space I needed to think. During this separation, I started to focus on myself. I picked up old hobbies I had neglected, like playing guitar and hiking. I spent time with friends and reconnected with my family. Slowly, I began to rediscover who I was outside of my relationship with Lisa. After a few months, Lisa and I met up to talk. We went to a quiet cafe, and the conversation was tense at first. "So, how have you been?" I asked, breaking the silence. "I've been better," she admitted. "But I've also had a lot of time to think. I realize now that I need to work on myself, too. I feel the same way, I said. I think we both lost ourselves somewhere along the way. We talked for hours, sharing our thoughts and feelings openly and honestly. By the end of the conversation, we both knew that our marriage couldn't continue the way it was. We decided to separate for good, but on amicable terms. There was still love between us, but it wasn't enough to overcome the betrayal and hurt. The divorce process was painful, but we managed to keep it civil. We sold the house in San Francisco and went our separate ways. Lisa moved back to Boston to be closer to her family, and I decided to stay in California, starting fresh in a new city. Looking back, I realized that the experience, as painful as it was, taught me a lot about myself and what I wanted in a relationship. Trust and communication are crucial, and without them, even the strongest love can crumble. Life moved on. I threw myself into my work and eventually got promoted to a senior position. I made new friends and even started dating again. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. One evening, as I was sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset over the Golden Gate Bridge, I received a message from Lisa. She had met someone new and wanted to let me know that she was happy. I felt a pang of sadness but also a sense of closure. We had both found our own paths, and that was okay. And so, that's my story. A story of love, betrayal, and ultimately, self-discovery. It's not the ending I had imagined, but it's my ending, and I've made peace with it. It's been 5 years since I shared my story with you. I wish I could tell you that everything turned out great, that my life is perfect, and that I'm happier than ever. But the truth is, things have taken a turn for the worse, and I find myself back in a place of uncertainty and pain. After Elena and I decided to give our relationship a shot, things were great for a while. We moved in together and continued to build our lives in San Francisco. Our bond grew stronger, and I began to feel like I had finally found the happiness I had been searching for. But as time went on, the cracks began to show. Our relationship, like any, had its ups and downs, but the downs seemed to become more frequent and more intense. We fought about small things, like whose turn it was to do the dishes, and big things, like our future together. Elena wanted to start a family, but I wasn't sure if I was ready. The fear of repeating my past mistakes loomed over me, and I couldn't shake it. One evening, after yet another heated argument, I found myself sitting alone on our balcony, staring out at the city lights. Elena had gone to stay with a friend for the night, and I felt a familiar sense of loneliness creeping in. The same loneliness I had felt after my divorce from Lisa. It was as if history was repeating itself, and I was powerless to stop it. I started spending more time at work, using it as an escape from the tension at home. Elena and I grew more distant, and the love that once felt so strong began to fade. We tried couples counseling, but it only seemed to bring our issues to the surface without offering any real solutions. One day, after a particularly bad fight, Elena packed her bags and left. She said she needed some time to think, to figure out if this was really what she wanted. I knew then that our relationship was over. The thought of losing her broke my heart, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. The constant fighting and tension had taken a toll on both of us, and perhaps it was better to let go than to keep trying to fix something that was irreparably broken. In the months that followed, I threw myself even deeper into my work. My career continued to thrive, and I was promoted to a senior management position. But the success felt hollow without someone to share it with. I found myself retreating into my old habits, isolating myself from friends and avoiding social situations. Carlos and my other friends noticed the change in me and tried to reach out, but I pushed them away. I didn't want to burden them with my problems, and I wasn't ready to face the reality of my situation. The loneliness and regret weighed heavily on me, and I struggled to find a way out. One night, as I sat in my apartment surrounded by the remnants of my failed relationships, I decided to reach out to you. Maybe sharing my story again, and the new challenges I'm facing, would help me find some clarity. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there has been through something similar and can offer some advice. So here I am, 5 years later, writing to you again. My life is far from perfect, and I feel like I'm back at square one. I've lost 2 significant relationships, and I'm struggling to understand why. Is it me? Am I destined to repeat the same mistakes over and over again? I miss Elena every day. I miss her laughter, her warmth, and the way she made everything seem brighter. I regret not being more open to starting a family, not being more present in our relationship. But it's too late for regrets now. She's moved on, and I'm left here picking up the pieces. I've also started to question my career choices. While I've achieved a lot professionally, it feels like it's come at the cost of my personal happiness. I'm good at what I do, but I wonder if it's truly fulfilling. The long hours and constant pressure have left me drained, and I've lost the passion I once had for my work. In an attempt to find some semblance of balance, I've started seeing a therapist. It's been helpful to talk to someone about my feelings and fears, but it's also brought up a lot of unresolved issues. I'm trying to work through them, but it's a slow and painful process. I've also reconnected with Carlos, Maria, Jake, and the others. They've been incredibly supportive, and I'm grateful to have them in my life. They've encouraged me to get back into music, and we've started jamming together again. It's a small step, but it's something that brings me a bit of joy in these dark times. Despite their support, I still feel lost. The future seems uncertain, and I'm not sure how to move forward. I want to believe that things will get better, that I'll find happiness again, but right now, it feels like an impossible dream. I know there's no quick fix or easy answer, but hearing from others who have been through similar experiences might give me some hope. I want to believe that I can find happiness again, that I can learn from my mistakes and build a better future. But I can't do it alone. As I continue to navigate through this challenging period, I've begun to reflect deeply on what truly matters to me. After losing 2 significant relationships and questioning my career choices, I've realized that I need to find a new sense of purpose. But this is easier said than done. I've tried to stay busy, hoping that by keeping myself occupied, I can avoid the feelings of loneliness and regret that haunt me. But distraction only works for so long. Eventually, the emptiness seeps back in, and I'm left grappling with the same questions. What am I doing with my life? Where do I go from here? I've started reading self-help books and watching motivational talks online, searching for answers and inspiration. While some of the advice resonates, it often feels like a temporary band-aid on a much deeper wound. I know that true change has to come from within, but figuring out how to achieve that is the hard part. One of the things that has helped, albeit in small doses, is reconnecting with nature. Living in San Francisco, I'm lucky to have access to beautiful outdoor spaces. I've started taking regular hikes in the nearby mountains and spending time by the ocean. There's something healing about being in nature, away from the noise and stress of the city. It's a reminder that life goes on, that there's beauty and peace to be found even in the midst of turmoil. But even these moments of tranquility are fleeting. The reality of my situation always catches up with me, and I'm left feeling just as lost as before. I've considered making more drastic changes, like moving to a different city or even a different country, in hopes that a new environment might provide the fresh start I desperately need. But I know that running away isn't the answer. The problems I'm facing are within me, and they'll follow me wherever I go. Another aspect of my life that I've been trying to improve is my relationships with others. After pushing so many people away, I've realized the importance of having a support system. I've made a conscious effort to be more open and honest with my friends, to let them in on what I'm going through instead of keeping it all bottled up inside. Carlos has been a constant source of support. He's listened to me vent, offered advice, and even dragged me out of the house when I've been feeling particularly low. His friendship has been a lifeline, and I'm grateful for his unwavering presence in my life. I've also reconnected with Maria and Jake. We've started meeting regularly for coffee or drinks, catching up on each other's lives and reminiscing about the good times. These moments of connection remind me that I'm not alone, that there are people who care about me and want to see me succeed. But even with their support, I still feel a profound sense of loneliness. I miss having a partner to share my life with, someone to come home to and confide in. The thought of dating again is daunting. The idea of opening myself up to someone new, of risking another heartbreak, is terrifying. But I know that I can't let fear dictate my life. I need to be brave and take chances if I ever want to find happiness again. In my quest for a new sense of purpose, I've started exploring different interests and hobbies. Music has always been a passion of mine, and I've begun playing the guitar more regularly. I've even written a few songs, using them as a way to process my emotions and express what I'm going through. I've also considered volunteering. giving back to the community in some way. There are so many people in need, and I think that helping others might help me find some meaning and fulfillment in my own life. I've looked into various organizations and causes, but I haven't yet taken the plunge. It's something I'm seriously considering, though, and I hope that by contributing to something greater than myself, I can start to heal. As I write this, I'm reminded of the importance of reaching out and asking for help. It's something I've struggled with in the past, preferring to deal with my problems on my own. But I've come to realize that there's strength in vulnerability, in admitting that you don't have all the answers and that you need support. So I'm asking you, the viewers, for your advice and insights. Have any of you been through similar struggles? How did you find your way out of the darkness? What steps did you take to rebuild your life and find happiness again? Any words of wisdom or encouragement would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to stay hopeful, to believe that things will get better. But it's hard. Every day is a battle, and there are times when I feel like giving up. But I know that I can't. I need to keep pushing forward, to keep searching for that light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you for taking the time to look my story. Your support means more to me than you can imagine. I hope that by sharing my journey, I can find some clarity and perhaps help others who are going through similar challenges. Please, if you have any words of wisdom or encouragement, I would love to hear them. How do you move on from past mistakes? How do you find the strength to keep going when everything seems to be falling apart? How do you rebuild your life when you feel like you've lost everything? I'm ready to listen, to learn, and to grow. And I hope that with your help, I can find my way out of this darkness and into a brighter future.